Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm sharing 5 different pasta recipes. These are all super cheap and easy to make. These will definitely help if you are on a really tight budget right now. Groceries are so expensive, and I think these pasta recipes will really help you out because they're very affordable and they're also really easy to make. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and let's go ahead and get into it. For this first recipe, I'm sharing one of my all-time favorite soups. This is a sausage orzo soup and it is absolutely delicious. I'm just starting off with 1 pound of some sausage. This is pork sausage. I'm sure you can play around and use anything else. And then I've got 1 onion and then 1 bell pepper chopped up, and I'm just going to brown all of this up together, get it all browned up and ready to go. After that meat is all browned, I'm just adding in a big scoop of minced garlic, about a tablespoon. Let that cook for another minute or so, and then you're going to be adding in 4 cups of chicken broth. You're also going to want to add in 1 can of crushed tomatoes. This is a big 28-ounce can of them, so add that right into the pot. And then for seasonings, you're going to want to add in 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, and then a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. And then I just brought this up to a boil before adding in my orzo pasta. You can technically add it right now, but I always like to bring everything up to a boil before I add pasta in for soups and everything. I just feel like it turns out better that way. So I added in about 1.5 cups of orzo pasta. You can do anywhere from a cup to a cup and a half. It's just personal preference. We like ours a little on the thicker side, but this soup is absolutely delicious. It's very hearty. I just like to top it with a little bit of Parmesan and parsley, and it is absolutely delicious. For this next recipe, I am making a mac and cheese from scratch, and this is super cheesy and delicious. So if you love cheesy macaroni and cheese, then this is definitely the recipe for you. I'm just starting off with a full box of pasta. I'm gonna go ahead and salt that water, cook this pasta until it's fully cooked through. And then to my other pot here, I'm gonna add in a half a stick of butter and about 4 tablespoons of flour. And then I'm just gonna whisk all of this together and cook it for about a minute until it's just very lightly browned. After the roux has thickened, I'm just adding in my milk. So for this recipe, I needed about 2 cups of milk, and I just added it in at 2 separate times. So I did the first cup, whisk it all together, and once that thickened up, then I added in the rest of the milk. I feel like it works out better when you kind of gradually add things in that way. So go ahead and get that milk fully added in. This should turn into a nice, like, creamy and thick sauce. At this point, once it was thickened up, I'm just adding in my sour cream. So this is just half a cup of sour cream. You could also use plain Greek yogurt if you want to. Whisking that in there, and then I'm going to be adding in my seasonings. So you can really add everything to taste here, but I would say you're going to want about a teaspoon of salt and probably like half a teaspoon of garlic powder. I will have this recipe linked below and you can kind of follow along with that, but it's really to taste. I feel like some people like their mac and cheese a little bit saltier. And then for this recipe, you're going to want 4 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. I definitely would recommend using cheese that you had shredded yourself versus like store-bought shredded cheese. I feel like the flavor is just so much better in a dish like this. But then you're just going to melt all the cheese in there. Do make sure that your stove is turned off so your cheese doesn't burn or anything. You really don't want to cook this. Here I'm just adding a touch more salt and a touch more garlic powder, whisking all of this together. And then here is that pasta that I had cooked. I just drained it off, and then I'm adding it right into my cheese mixture here. So I'm mixing all of this in, and like I said, this is a very cheesy macaroni and cheese. If you don't like cheese, this definitely is not the dish for you. I also think this would be really good throwing this in the oven and doing like a baked macaroni and cheese, but you'll have to let me know if you try this one. On this next night, I made a tuna casserole because that's really all that I had on hand. I had not thought out any meat or anything. So I'm just starting off with a drizzle of olive oil in my pan, and then I'm adding in about half of an onion that I had chopped up. Once I had sauteed that, I'm adding in a couple tablespoons of butter, probably about 2.5 tablespoons, making sure that's all melted. And then I'm going to be adding in my flour. So this is about 2.5 tablespoons of flour. I'm just kind of making a roux here. I did add some salt and pepper in there just to kind of season the roux a little bit, but then I'm just going to whisk all of this together and let it cook for about a minute or so. Once that roux had thickened up, I'm just adding in my milk. This is about 2 cups of whole milk, and I'm just kind of gradually adding that in, just like I did on the macaroni and cheese recipe. Add that in gradually and it just works much better, but then get this thickened up. I'm just seasoning this very heavily with pepper, salt, and then a little bit of garlic powder. Another thing that you can also add in here is just like a tiny little bit of paprika that can add really good flavor if you want to. But just go ahead and season this however you like. And then into your other pot, you're gonna want to get your pasta going. This was 12 ounces of veggie rotini pasta. Of course, I'm going to salt the water and then just fully cook that through. Now back over to my pot, I'm just adding in a couple cans of tuna. Canned tuna is totally fine for this one, works great in this recipe, so just get those dumped in there, give us a mix together, and then we're gonna add in our shredded cheese. For this cheese in this recipe, I added about 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. I did leave some left over for on top, so I would say I mixed in probably like a little over a cup, and then the rest of it I just sprinkled right on top to kind of melt on top of the pasta. I just gave it a taste to see if I needed to add any other seasoning. I just added some salt, pepper, and garlic powder until that was ready to go. And then back over to my other pot where I had that pasta boiling, I'm just adding in a whole bag of frozen mixed vegetables. Cook that for a couple of minutes, and then you're going to drain off the pasta and the veggies all at the same time. Just add it during the last couple minutes that the pasta is cooking, and then drain it off, add it into your pot with your sauce. Mix it together. Of course, you can give it a taste to see if you need to add anything at this point, but then I just topped it with some shredded cheese, let that melt together, and this was actually really good for a quick and easy dinner. This is great if you did not thaw meat before, like the night that I made this. I did not thaw anything out, and it was a great dinner. My family really enjoyed it, and it was something that filled our bellies and was cheap to make too. For this next dinner, I am making a cheesy sausage pasta. Now, this is something that I've been making for years now, and it's a family favorite. We absolutely love it. You can do this with a cheap kielbasa if you're on a really tight budget, or of course you can use something a little bit nicer. I'm actually just using up some venison sausage that I had left over in my freezer. We have a ton of this that I'm trying to get used up, so this is a perfect recipe to use this for. And then here I have 2 onions. These are on the smaller side, but you're going to want about 1.5 cups of some diced up onion. And then into my Dutch oven here, I'm just drizzling that with a little bit of olive oil, probably like a couple tablespoons, and then I'm just throwing that sausage right in there with all of these onions, and I'm gonna cook this until the onions are translucent in color. I would say it's gonna be about like 5 to 6 minutes or so. Just go ahead and cook all of that up. Once that has cooked, I'm just adding in a big scoop of minced garlic, probably about a tablespoon, and then I just let that cook for another minute or so. And then here I'm adding in all of my other ingredients. So this is 2 cans of petite diced tomatoes, and then about 4 cups of some chicken broth, along with 1 cup of some milk, or you can use heavy cream if you want to. And then you're gonna want about a teaspoon of salt and pepper, and then you're just gonna want to heat this up. I like it to just like barely come to a boil, and then I add in all of my pasta. You're gonna want about 16 ounces of pasta for this recipe, and you're gonna want it to be like a smaller type of pasta, and then you're just gonna cook that for about like 10 or so minutes until the pasta is fully cooked through. And then you can add in all of your shredded cheese. You're gonna want a couple cups of cheddar cheese for this recipe, and then you can top it with a little bit more. And this dinner is absolutely delicious. I have made this so many times, and it's always a hit in our house. For this next dinner, I'm making a cheeseburger pasta. Think of a cheeseburger and pasta mixed together, and that is what you're going to get with this dish. But I'm just starting off with a pound of some lean ground beef. I have that about half cooked, and then I'm adding in 1 onion that's chopped up, along with a green bell pepper and a little bit of salt and pepper. And then I'm just gonna finish cooking that until the onions and peppers are translucent in color and cooked through. And then once that's done, I'm adding in a big scoop of minced garlic and letting that cook for another minute. Now it is time to season this up. So I've got a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, half a teaspoon of chili powder, half teaspoon of onion powder, and half teaspoon of garlic powder. And then of course you're gonna want about half teaspoon of salt and pepper in there. And then I'm dumping in a can of petite diced tomatoes, a can of tomato sauce, and then I'm just gonna let this simmer up on the stove while I am cooking up my pasta in my other pot. So into this pot here, I just have 4 cups of some egg noodles, and I'm just gonna go ahead and boil those. And I do always like to add salt into my pasta water. I feel like that really helps bring out a lot of the flavor in there, so definitely don't forget to do that. Once those noodles are done cooking, I just drained them off and added them right into that sauce mixture, stirred it together. I'm also going to be adding in about half a can of some corn. You could use frozen for this too if you wanted to. I would just add it into the sauce earlier. And then you're going to want probably a couple cups of some shredded cheddar cheese. Mix all of that together, let the cheese melt down. I will say if you're using fresh cheese that's not like pre-shredded from the store, it melts down so much easier for any of these recipes, but this is what I had on hand this day and it worked just fine. I topped it with a little bit more cheese and then I just popped that into the oven for not very long. I would say I baked it for like maybe 7 or 8 minutes just to kind of get everything melted together. And this is a really delicious dinner if you just want something quick and easy. Delicious. I think you guys are really going to like this one. Alright you guys, that is going to wrap up today's video. I really hope you enjoyed all of these super cheap pasta recipes. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you all in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!